Hey there, my name is Brashler, and in this video, I want to show you the brand new Behringer WING Rack that Behringer just released of the Behringer WING. Now, this is a whole series of mixers now. We have the Behringer WING Rack, the Behringer WING Compact, and the Behringer WING Black Full Size. So those three mixers represent the entire series of the Behringer WING. Now, if you're brand new to my channel, I'm all about helping you feel more confident with your production gear no matter where you're starting from. So let's go ahead and dive in on the Behringer WING Rack. Now, this rack, as we can see, it is 4 AU high. So we have a 4 AU sized Behringer WING Rack. On the back of this console, it has 24 XLR combo jacks that are the Midas Pro Series inputs. So all of the great sound from the Midas Pro Series is in on these inputs that are on the back of the Behringer WING Rack. So we not only have 24 inputs, but those are combo jacks, so both XLR or TRS inputs. Now on the output side, we have 8 XLR outputs as well as 4 headphone jacks on the back of the Behringer WING Rack. So there are headphone jacks on this that you can utilize for a headphone out for a headphone amp, which is great. So if you want to have a contained system with just running some headphone cables out of the back of the rack, you can do that, which is fantastic. Now, the other thing that the Behringer WING Rack has is all of the standard inputs that the Behringer WING Compact and Behringer WING Full Size have. There are the 3 AES 50 ports, giving us 48 by 48 bidirectional audio over a shielded Cat5 cable to connect with any of the Midas or Behringer stage boxes. We also have Stage Connect that allows us to do 32 channels over a data style XLR. We also have our expansion card, which the Behringer WING Rack ships standard with the WING Live card, allowing us to record 64 channels audio to dual SD cards or play back 64 channels off of those SD cards. There's also the 64 by 64 internal module of the Behringer WING, which I have a fun little tidbit about that here in a little bit, as well as our USB audio, which gives us our 48 in, 48 out. We also have our AES EBU input and output, as well as the USB recorder on the front of the console. So there are a lot of input and output sources for our Behringer WING Rack that the Rack has, as well as the Compact, as well as the full size. Now the main difference is that the full size gives us 8 auxiliary TRS inputs and 8 auxiliary TRS outputs, but we gain 24 XLR inputs on the Rack and the Compact, which is great because the full-size WING only has 8, which I would rather have 24 inputs rather than having the extra outputs because I'm always going to be utilizing a WING with some sort of stage box. Now, the Behringer WING Rack is best suited for a traveling gigging musician who has an audio rack that is traveling with them, maybe with their in-ear transmitters if they're using this as a monitor rig, or a Wi-Fi setup for being able to mix front of house on an iPad, or a computer utilizing WING Edit software. All of that is available to us, but what's great is the WING Rack gives us a lot of flexibility. There is a little pull thing here, which allows us to bring this console screen out and actually adjust things on the front of this console. So you can imagine that this is sitting next to the drums or the keys rig or whatever, and you can then pull this out to be able to see the surface of the WING. And you can mix on this if you desire. So we have all of our faders. So I have faders 1 through 8 on my channels, 9 through 16, 17 through 24, 25 through 32, 33 through 40, plus my 8 auxiliary channels, which gives us our 48 channels. Now remember, all of the channels are mono, stereo, or mid-side. So if you have a stereo source, it is on a single channel. No more linking of 2 channels together to get a stereo source. So all 48 channels of the Behringer WING allows us to do mono, stereo, or mid-side processing. Now moving on to the outputs, we have our bus 1 through 8, 9 through 16, as well as our 4 mains, our 8 matrices, and then we also have our 16 DCAs. Now, what's great is we can click on fader view and we can actually go and mix with our fingers. So I can go mute, assign things, change our fader position. If I go to overview, it gives me an overview of the channel. So now I can go click in to adjust the gate or the EQ or the compression, or I can utilize any of the 16 effects racks that are internal on the Behringer Wing. Now going back to our fader page, we also have all of these blank ones here on the right-hand side. Now what's great is we can custom define our user layers as we want to. So I can go click into this layer, I can then go config, and I can build a custom layer page for, say, my drums. So I'm going to go select my 8 drum inputs and drag and drop those down here. Now, if I had more than just these 8 inputs, I can arrow over and add up to 16 channels on this single user layer. Now, what's great is I can go and rename this to be drums. Now what's great is if I go back to my faders page, I have my 1 through 8, 9 through 16, 17 through 24, or I can go select my drums. And if I have additional channels past this 8, I can just simply press this arrow over to get to my additional channels. So let's go ahead and set that up. So let's go ahead and add our 17 through 20 here on 9 through 12. So now if I go back to my faders and I have my drum selected, we can see that here's 1 through 8 and here is 17 through 20. Now another great thing about these user pages is I can go and configure a channel directly next to a mix bus send for my channel 1, and here's my mix bus send for bus 2 for my channel 1. Oops. There we go. And so we can now see that I have my channel, my mix bus send for bus 1, my mix bus send for bus 2, all for my channel 1. And then I can end up putting that next to a DCA as well as my main fader for my mix bus 1. And so now I can go change this to be, say, channel 1. And if I go back to my faders, I can then see channel 1. Here's my channel 1. Here's the send for mix bus 1, send for mix bus 2. Here's a DCA as well as the main master fader for my mix bus 1. Now, not only do I have my touchscreen that I can do every single thing on the Behringer Wing with, but I also have this right section where I have these knobs. So we have our virtual controls, which you can see is our screen. So if I click virtual, that's going to be all of my virtual faders here of the console. But if I click controls, that's this section of the board. So I have 4 rotary knobs as well as a mute and solo on all of these channels. So if I go to my inputs, I can go page through all of my inputs that I have on my Behringer Wing. And so we can see that here's my channel 1, here's my channel 5, 9, 13, 17, so on and so forth. And so if I grab this knob, I can go and adjust the fader position of my channels, as well as mute or solo, and it would pull up the solo in this headphone jack that's right here. Now, if I want to see my mix buses or my mains or my matrices, we can press the buses main, and here is my mix buses, 1 through 16. If I want to see my mains, I just simply press this one more time. Here's my mains 1 through 4, and I can page over to get to my matrices. Now, if I go press DCA, here's my 16 DCAs, as well as if I press it one more time, it'll go to my mute groups. So here is my mute groups for turning on and off my mute groups. The very last thing that we have is our custom controls, or my transfer controls. So if I press custom layer, and I can go setup, and then go to CC Edit. Here, I can custom define what these buttons do. So for instance, I could go to a page. So let's go to a channel page of channel 1 for the home, and that's on this button. And then I could go to my next one, and we could go channel page of channel 2. And then on my next one, I could go and pull up a scene recall. And then on this button, we'll do scene recall of 2. Now, not only can I program the buttons, but I can also program the encoders. So for instance, if I wanted to set this to our fader for channel 1, I could do that. So now here is my fader for my channel 1. Now, what's great about the custom control page is that I have multiple pages of custom controls that I can assign, all the way up to 16 pages. So that's a lot of functionality that we have just on this little section right here. And so for my page buttons that I have. So here's my home page of channel 1, and now I can go and adjust my fader here with that button. Here's my channel page for channel 2, or recalling scenes or snippets in your show control. Now, if we ever get lost on this right-hand side of the board, we can always press the View button, and that will pull up our view of the current section that we're in. So for instance, my custom controls, if I press View, here is my custom control configuration page. If I go to my input and auxes and then press View, it'll pull up my inputs for my channels here. So here's my inputs, here's my auxes, here's my buses, and these are the 4 faders that are right here. So if I tab over, we will see that it will change here as well as changing in the controls section. Now, the Behringer WING Rack gives us a lot of flexibility for being able to have a monitor situation for up on stage. So your on-stage musicians can be utilizing this as their monitor console with the in-ear transmitters or the headphone jacks that are on the back of the Wing Rack. And because there's 24 inputs, you can then utilize those 24 inputs and send it over AES-50 out to a console at front of house, maybe a Behringer Wing or a Behringer X32, anything that has AES-50 capable at 48 kilohertz or 44.1, depending on which setting you have your Wing Rack on. Now, there was one thing that I was holding out on telling you guys, and that was about the internal module of the Behringer Wing. Waves and Behringer have teamed up to make a Waves SoundGrid internal module card for the Wing series. So now you can order your Behringer Wing directly from Behringer with the Waves SoundGrid card installed inside the card module of your Behringer Wing. Now, there are 2 network ports on the back of your Behringer Wing. Now, this goes for the Wing Compact, the Wing Rack, or the Wing Full Size. Now, with that internal module, the internal module uses the data ports on the back of the Wing. So those 2 network ports that are on the back of the Wing not only control the console for your software and apps that you have, but it also interfaces with the internal module to send our Waves SoundGrid over, or a Dante card, for instance, you can also do this with. So those 2 network ports on the back of your console with the Waves SoundGrid card, we can then utilize our Waves SoundGrid card that's inside of our console to get 64 in and 64 out over Waves SoundGrid to hook up with a Waves SoundGrid server and get very low latency Waves processing on any of our inputs that we want. Now, I can't wait to bring you guys a bunch of videos on Waves SoundGrid and our Wing ecosystem and how to get all of that configured and utilize a bunch of different plugins, from auto-tune to classic compressors to limiting as well. Now, I hope this video was helpful for you today. If you are interested in checking out more about the Behringer Wing Rack, the Behringer Wing Compact, or the Behringer Wing Full Size, I have a link down in the description below to Behringer's site that talks about all of those, as well as if you're interested in purchasing one of these, you can check out my link to Sweetwater and Guitar Center through the affiliate links that I have down in the description below and purchase it there. If you do happen to have any questions on the Wing or the whole ecosystem, or if there's a video that you're hoping that I would make on all of the production equipment that's out there, please post that in the comment section down below, as I'm always reading through those comments to find videos that are going to be helpful for you. If you haven't already, make sure to check out my website at drewbrashler.com. Otherwise, I hope you have a great day.